Let's make some Yellowstone baked beans, also known as Roosevelt beans. Hi guys, and welcome to Uncle Scott's Kitchen. Today we're going to make some of the best baked beans you've ever eaten. Let's jump in and get started. What makes this recipe delicious is that the first ingredient is bacon. A pound of bacon. Any recipe that begins with a pound of bacon, you know it's going to be good. Also has pork sausage, has onions, and it has lots of canned beans. And I will put the full recipe below, and I should note this is kind of my twist on the recipe they use in Yellowstone. It used to be kind of a secret. I used to work in Yellowstone back in the day. I spent probably 2 years or more actually in the park working. And they used to serve us Roosevelt beans at the employee dining room. Actually, one of the dishes they would serve there that you would actually want to eat for the employees. But now the company that runs the concessionaire there in Yellowstone actually publishes it on their website. So I'll put a link to the quote unquote official recipe below. This is my twist on it. And my twist is mainly adding a lot more bacon and a lot more sausage. So let's go ahead and get the Le Creuset heating up. Now while that is preheating, let's quickly run through the ingredient list here. I'm using a pound of bacon and a pound of pork sausage, hot Jimmy Dean pork sausage. The original recipe says you could also substitute hamburger or beef instead of that pork sausage. And being from Yellowstone, why isn't it buffalo? You can get ground buffalo at the supermarket, I don't know, but I'm using bacon and sausage in mine. Then I have got half cup of ketchup, half cup of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons apple cider vinegar, careful not to spill that, 2 tablespoons of mustard, and then if we get crazy, a shake of cayenne, shake of garlic powder, salt and pepper to taste, of course. And then the beans. This used to be a 31 ounce can of pork and beans. These days, thanks to hyperinflation, it's a 28 ounce can. Got one of those. I got a can of butter beans, a can of lima beans, a can of kidney beans. And if it looks like we're running short on beans, I'm going to add a can of Great Northern beans, but we probably won't need those. And this is really a good recipe, not only for summertime barbecues, but let me show you what it looks like outside. We got about 8 inches of fresh snow outside, and this kind of helps warm us up just a little bit. So let's get the bacon in. And what we're going to do is just crisp up the bacon. I can already smell it. Now at the moment I am using a fancy 9-quart Le Creuset enamel cast iron Dutch oven. Back when I worked in Yellowstone, I didn't even know what a Le Creuset Dutch oven even was. I was 19 years old and off the farm in Alabama. Had never been away from home before and went out there and worked for the summer and absolutely fell in love with it. And absolutely the adventure of a lifetime. So you younger viewers, if your job prospects are slim, head out to Yellowstone. They are always hiring. I moved up into management somehow, mainly because I just showed up and didn't leave. I fulfilled my contract, and lots of other people go out there and work for the summers and leave. If you just stick around, you move up. And I remember I used to talk to some of the wranglers that worked down there at Roosevelt. So down at Roosevelt Lodge, I worked in Mammoth and at Old Faithful. And down at Roosevelt Lodge, they ran kind of a horseback ride or a wagon ride out kind of into the park where they would fix a cowboy dinner. And I think you can get a steak and of course other things, but also you could get Roosevelt beans. And they told me a story one time of how they were out there on that horseback ride, that horseback cookout, and an old bear came in. And the old bear got up on the table, everyone scattered, and the bear started eating some of the food there. And of course, he may have been coming in for the steak, but I have to believe he was coming in for some of these Roosevelt beans. Okay, bacon is starting to crisp up just a little bit. And I'm not going to drain that bacon grease because for whatever reason, it seems sausage these days doesn't have the same fat in it as when I was little. Used to, we would cook sausage, breakfast sausage, there would be a pan of grease left over. I think they have bred the pigs these days to be a little bit leaner, and they don't put as much fat in the sausage. Our fat pigs are skinny pigs these days, and lots of times sausage needs a little help to cook. So I'm going to leave that bacon grease in there. Let's get the sausage in. Oh, dropped an onion. Can we eat an onion off the floor? I think at the employee dining room in Yellowstone, I ate a lot worse than that. And just for fun, since I have nothing to do, standing here, I'm going to go ahead and mix up our flavor ingredients here and kind of give that a head start, especially with some of that brown sugar kind of melt a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put the onion in. And just make sure I don't have any raw meat on the old hands. A little bit of black pepper. And because these are canned beans and I'm using sausage and bacon, I'm not going to add any salt now. I will test it for salt later on when they get closer to being ready. Okay, while we're waiting, a couple of crazy Yellowstone stories from back in the day. One time I saw a tourist trying to feed a sandwich to a buffalo. One time I saw, I guess a man was driving a car and a lady was standing up through the sunroof with a video camera. And this is before the days of video cell phones and videotaping the entire park. She stood up through the sunroof and videotaped the whole thing. And maybe the craziest thing I ever saw, I used to work at Old Faithful, and when Old Faithful goes off, there's a million people there watching it go off, and then when it's over, they scatter. And one time between eruptions, no one was out there, and I looked out there, and lo and behold, a tourist had walked out onto the cone and was looking down the hole of Old Faithful, trying to get a picture. And if you know anything about Old Faithful, it says it's Old Faithful, that's the marketing hype, but there is a wide variability in the times it goes off. That person could have been boiled alive with superheated, steamed, boiling water. Thank goodness a ranger ran out there and got her off of there before the next eruption. Okay, that's probably good enough here. Let's go ahead and get our pork and beans in. Those mixed up, and if it's possible to deglaze a Dutch oven with pork and bean juice, that is what I am doing now. If there are any sticky bits on the bottom, let's go ahead and get those incorporated. And I'm going to go with my butter beans. It looks pretty dry in here, so I'm just going to not drain these. I'm going to add my limas. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and add the sauce, and then make the final call on draining or not draining the remaining beans. The kidneys in, and I think just for fun, I'm going to add, since I've added extra meat, I'm going to add a can of Great Northern beans. Let's make sure everything is stirred nicely. Okay, so now I'm going to transfer this Dutch oven to a 325-degree oven. Let those bake for an hour or so, and then we are going to tuck in. Okay, so those beans turned out absolutely deliciously, everything I remember, and I think at least as good, if not better, than what you might get in Yellowstone, just gotta say. Leave your questions, comments, and feedback below. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time on Uncle Scott's Kitchen.